Buckle up and grab your favorite blanket because you are not ready for this story. If you thought the drama at Roloff Farms was just another family disagreement, think again. We are diving deep into the legal maze, the whispered betrayals, and the shocking document that may have permanently severed a son's connection to his childhood home. This isn't just about a business deal gone wrong. This is a saga about legacy, control, and offense that came to symbolize an unbreakable divide. What did Matt Roloff do that was so final, so legally binding, that it seemingly left Zach out in the cold forever? The answers are more complex and heartbreaking than you can imagine, and the fallout is still rippling through the entire Roloff family to this very day. To understand the end, we have to go back to the beginning. Roloff Farms in Hillsboro, Oregon, wasn't just a pumpkin patch, it was the star of the show. For over 2 decades, viewers watched the Roloff family grow up, face challenges, and build a life on that picturesque property. At the center of it all was Matt Roloff, the visionary patriarch, always dreaming bigger, building wilder attractions, and seeing the farm not just as a home, but as an empire. And for a long time, it seemed like his son Zach was being groomed to take it over. Zach, often seen working alongside his dad, shared a special bond with the land, especially after his twin brother Jeremy began to step back from farm life. The narrative was set. Zach, his wife Tori, and their children would be the future stewards of Roloff Farms. The public first saw the cracks forming during the now infamous land negotiations. Matt offered a portion of the farm, a large, beautiful parcel with a historic house, to Zach and Tori. But the deal fell apart, and publicly. The reasons were layered. There was the price, which Zach and Tori felt was too high, especially considering the necessary renovations. There was Matt's insistence on certain conditions and timelines. But more than anything, there was a profound clash of perspectives. Zach saw it as a family home, a legacy. Matt, the businessman, saw it as a real estate asset that needed to make financial sense. The emotional blow was severe. Zach felt his father wasn't treating him like family, but like just another buyer in a tough market. This wasn't just a failed transaction, it was a fracture in their relationship, broadcast for the world to see. Then came the ultimate bombshell. Matt Roloff listed the entire 1,600-acre property for sale. This was the moment everything changed. For Zach, this was the ultimate signal that his father's dreams no longer included him. If the farm was for sale to the highest bidder, then the legacy he hoped for was already gone. The family's discussions moved from the dinner table to the lawyer's office. It was during this period of high tension and potential sale that the legal machinery began to turn in a way that would have permanent consequences. Here is where we get to the core of the legal blockade. Matt Roloff did not just own the farm outright by himself. The property was owned by a legal entity, likely an LLC or a family trust. This is standard practice for significant assets, as it provides liability protection and clarifies ownership shares. For years, Matt and his then-wife Amy were the primary members or managers of this entity. Even after their divorce and Amy's eventual sale of her share of the main farm to Matt, the structure remained. When Matt began seriously entertaining offers for the whole farm, the governance of this LLC became critically important. Who could make decisions? Who had to agree to a sale? Who had voting rights? This is the pivotal moment. To streamline a potential sale and to maintain unequivocal control, Matt Roloff, as the majority owner, appears to have restructured the legal framework of the farm's ownership. Sources close to the family have suggested that Zach, and likely other children, may have held very small, symbolic membership interests in the farm LLC, perhaps gifts or intended inheritance stakes set up years prior. These small shares, while not giving operational control, could potentially have given Zach a legal foothold, a right to be consulted, or even minor voting rights on major decisions like a sale of the entire property. The blocking action, the legal maneuver that sealed Zach's fate, was the removal of those minority membership interests. Matt, utilizing his position and following the operating agreement of the LLC, likely initiated a buyout or redemption of Zach's small share. This is a cold, clinical legal process. It's not a family argument, it's the execution of clauses in a contract. Zach would have received a payout for the fair market value of his tiny share, a transaction that might have seemed like a formality on paper, but carried the weight of 1,000 goodbyes. Once that transaction was complete, Zach Roloff was no longer a member of Roloff Farms LLC. He held no legal stake, no matter how small. He was permanently out. This action is why the word legally in our title is so crucial. This wasn't Matt simply saying, "You're not getting the farm, son." This was Matt's legal entity formally severing the last tangible, documentable tie Zach had to the property as a co-owner. He went from being a minority stakeholder to being a stranger to the corporate entity that owns the land. This means Zach has zero legal standing to challenge any decisions Matt makes about the farm. He cannot block a sale. He cannot demand access. He cannot influence its future. The door wasn't just shut, it was welded closed, with the seal of a notary public stamped on the weld. The emotional impact of this legal severance cannot be overstated. For Zach, the farm was more than soil and pumpkin vines. It was his history, his identity, the backdrop of his children's lives. To have that connection legally dissolved would feel like a disownment. It transforms the conflict from a painful father-son disagreement into a formal, business-oriented exile. The message is stark. In the eyes of the company that owns Roloff Farms, you are no longer involved. This action likely made any future reconciliation regarding the farm impossible because there was nothing left to negotiate. The deed was done. Now let's talk about the aftermath, the human cost. Zach and Tori made the life-altering decision to leave Oregon entirely. They relocated to Battle Ground, Washington, purchasing a beautiful, flat property where they could build a life and a home accessible for their children, free from the emotional weight and the steep hills of Roloff Farms. This move was a declaration of independence, but also one of profound sadness. They were building a new legacy because the old one was legally and emotionally close to them. Zach has spoken in interviews about the difficulty of this, about feeling he had to move his family away to truly start fresh, away from the constant reminder of what was and what could never be. Meanwhile, Matt found a different path forward for the farm. He did not sell the entire property. Instead, he sold a significant portion of it, the very North 40 parcel he had once offered to Zach, to a longtime family friend and neighbor. This sale solidified the new reality. The farm was shrinking, and its future was in Matt's hands alone. He has spoken about scaling back, about focusing on the core pumpkin season attractions, and about eventually perhaps passing on a smaller, more manageable version of the farm. But the question is to whom? With Zach legally disconnected and living in another state, and Jeremy pursuing his own passions and business ventures, the dynasty vision seems to have faded. The family dynamics are forever altered. Gatherings are strained, if they happen at all. Communication is reportedly minimal and fraught. The show itself, which once documented the family's unity, now documents its fragments. Episodes are filled with awkward silences, careful language, and palpable distance. The joy of grandchildren running through the pumpkin patches is now tempered by the unspoken reality that their father is a visitor there, not a future owner. Holidays are likely negotiated minefields. The legal action didn't just change a business structure, it reconfigured the family's entire ecosystem. But the story doesn't end here. This is where the ongoing saga continues to unfold. Every decision Matt makes about the farm now echoes with this history. When he builds a new attraction, fans wonder if Zach is watching from afar, feeling a pang. When the pumpkin season opens each fall, the absence of Zach's family as integral participants is a silent subplot. The legal blockade created a before and an after. And we are living in the after, watching the consequences play out in real time. What does the future hold for Roloff Farms? Matt is not getting any younger, and the question of ultimate succession remains a giant, unanswered question mark. Could the rest of the farm eventually be sold to outsiders, making the Roloff name a mere memory on a sign? Could there be a dramatic, late-in-life reconciliation that finds a way to bring family back into the fold, even if not through traditional ownership? Or will the farm's legacy end with Matt, a final chapter to a story that was supposed to be about multi-generational dreams? And what of Zach? In Washington, he is building his own version of a family homestead. There is a poetic symmetry to it. Like his father decades before, he is working the land, building structures, and creating a paradise for his children. He is proving that he didn't need his father's farm to fulfill his destiny as a provider and a father. But one has to wonder, does the ghost of Roloff farm still visit him? Does he drive past fields and see not just land, but a reflection of the connection he lost? His new life is a testament to resilience, but it is born from a wound that may never fully heal. The court of public opinion remains fiercely divided. Some side with Matt, arguing that it was his life's work, his financial risk, and his right to control the asset he built. They see Zach as entitled for expecting a deal on family terms. Others side passionately with Zach, seeing Matt's legal maneuvers as a cruel and final rejection, prioritizing control and money over his own son's heart and legacy. This division mirrors the family's own split, creating a chorus of noise that the Roloffs can likely never fully escape. The deeper we look, the more this story transcends a simple reality TV feud. It becomes a modern parable about the intersection of family and business, about the dangers of mixing legacy with liability, and about how love can become entangled with law in the most destructive ways. It asks painful questions. How do you pass on a dream without passing on control? How do you treat family fairly in a multi-million-dollar enterprise? And when does standing on principle become standing on the ruins of your relationships? As we speak, life goes on. The pumpkins will grow again next season at Roloff Farms. Children will laugh on the hayrides. Matt will likely be there, overseeing it all, a patriarch on his shrinking kingdom. In Washington, Zach's children will play on their flat, spacious land, building their own memories, far from the shadow of the iconic farmhouse. The two worlds spin on separate axes, connected only by a shared past and a legal document that severed their future. The final, haunting question is one of regret. In the quiet moments, when the cameras are off and the business meetings are over, does Matt Roloff ever look at the land he fought so hard to control completely and feel the weight of its emptiness? Does he see the ghosts of his grandchildren running through fields he no longer shares with his son? And does Zach, watching his own children play, ever feel a surge of relief that he escaped the gravitational pull of that drama, even as he mourns what it cost him? This is the unresolved tension that will continue to define the Roloff story. The legal blockade was an event, a decisive action with papers and signatures. But its aftermath is a process, an ongoing emotional reality show with no scheduled finale. The why behind Matt's decision is a complex stew of personal pride, business acumen, fractured trust, and a father's perhaps misguided attempt to retain sovereignty over his life's work. The how was cold, hard, and effective corporate law. And so, the saga continues, not with a bang, but with a slow, steady simmer. Every family photo from one branch that doesn't include the other, every interview where a question is deftly sidestepped, every new season on the farm without a familiar face, these are the quiet echoes of that legal decision. The fence Matt Roloff built wasn't just around a property line. It was a legal and emotional barrier that redefined a family. And as of right now, that fence shows no signs of coming down. The story is far from over, but a crucial chapter has been irrevocably written, not in the memoirs of a TV family, but in the official records of the Washington County Assessor's Office. The legacy of Roloff Farms is now a tale of two homes, two visions, and one divide that proved too wide to cross again. And that is a reality more compelling and more tragic than any fiction. And that divide, that seemingly uncrossable chasm between father and son, between past and future, is where our story deepens. Because the legal severance was not an isolated event. It was the catalyst that set off a chain reaction, revealing hidden fractures, forcing other family members to choose sides, and rewriting the very identity of the family brand itself. If you thought the fallout was contained, you are mistaken. The tremors from that legal decision are still shaking the foundation of everything the Roloffs built, both on and off the screen. Let's pull the camera back and look at the broader family landscape. Amy Roloff, the matriarch, found herself in an impossibly difficult position. Having sold her share of the main farm to Matt after their divorce, she was a free agent, but she was still the mother to Zach, Jeremy, Molly, and Jacob. Her loyalties were torn. Publicly, she has often acted as a peacemaker, expressing sadness at the rift. But actions speak louder than words. Amy's decision to sell her portion to Matt, rather than to her children, was the first major domino to fall in this entire saga. That sale gave Matt the controlling interest he needed to later make the decisions he did. While Amy undoubtedly had her own financial and personal reasons, a desire for a clean slate, the need for resources to start her new life with her husband Chris, the consequence was centralizing power with Matt. Her move to her own nearby property created a neutral ground, but it also meant she had relinquished any direct say in the farm's future. She became a spectator to the war, her heart with her children, but her legal and financial power already spent. Then there's Jeremy Roloff, Zach's twin brother. For a long time, Jeremy was seen as the other potential heir. He worked on the farm, shared some of his father's visionary inclinations, and even authored a book about living a farmish kind of life. But Jeremy's exit from the farm narrative was quieter, more strategic, and perhaps ultimately more peaceful. He and his wife, Audrey, began building their own brand entirely separate from Roloff Farms, a brand focused on marriage, faith, lifestyle, and publishing. They invested in their own property, away from the farm. By the time the great conflict between Matt and Zach erupted, Jeremy had already emotionally and professionally distanced himself. He was not competing for the crown. This positioning allowed Jeremy to maintain a relationship with both sides, albeit with clear boundaries. He hasn't been embroiled in the public legal drama, but his choice to walk away and build his own empire is, in itself, a powerful commentary. It suggests he saw the writing on the wall long before the final act. The farm, with its intense emotional baggage and parental control, was not the only path to a meaningful life. Jeremy's story is the alternate timeline, the road not taken by Zach, and it highlights just how all-consuming the battle for the farm became for those who stayed in the fight. Molly Roloff, the eldest daughter, chose a path of complete privacy. She left the public eye, built a career and a family entirely away from the spotlight, and has consistently stayed out of the farm business. Her silence is deafening. It is the most decisive vote of no confidence in the entire public spectacle. By choosing a normal life, she rejected the very premise of the family trade, trading privacy for fame and peace for drama. Her absence from the narrative is a constant reminder that the fiery conflict we are witnessing is a choice. There is another way. But for Zach, who felt the legacy in his bones, that choice may have felt like a betrayal of his own destiny. And Jacob Roloff, the youngest, has been openly critical of the family structure, the reality TV environment, and has spoken about his own struggles. His journey has been one of breaking away and healing from the pressures of fame. He is firmly in the camp of those who have moved on, making his perspective one of someone who found the entire system unhealthy. So when we look at the full roster, Zach is somewhat of an outlier. He was the one who wanted to stay, who wanted to merge his family's future with the farm's past, who was willing to engage in the difficult negotiations. And for that, he faced the most direct and formal rejection. This brings us to the unsung character in this drama, the farm itself. Roloff Farms is not just a piece of land. It is a character with its own needs, its own draining financial demands, its own relentless cycle of planting and harvest. Matt Roloff has often spoken of the farm as a demanding, expensive mistress. The property taxes alone are staggering. The maintenance of the iconic attractions, the pirate ship, the castle, the train requires constant investment. The seasonal nature of the pumpkin business means cash flow is a year-round concern. This financial reality is the backdrop to every emotional decision. When Matt offered the parcel to Zach at market rate, it wasn't necessarily greed. It could have been a survival tactic. Pouring emotional capital into the farm doesn't pay the bills. Selling a portion for a significant sum could have been the lifeline needed to keep the rest of the operation afloat. From Matt's perspective, honed over decades of entrepreneurial struggle, sentiment doesn't secure loans. Legacy doesn't patch barn roofs. He built this empire from scratch, fighting through doubt, physical challenges, and financial peril. To hand over the reins or sell at a discount could feel like undoing that lifetime of work. It could feel like watching his life's masterpiece be dismantled by someone who, in his view, didn't fully grasp the sheer weight of carrying it. His legal moves can be seen as a fortress mentality. After a lifetime of building, he was now battening down the hatches, protecting his creation from what he might have perceived as threats, including the threat of emotional claims undermining its financial stability. The tragedy is that the very person he may have been trying to protect the farm for became the person he felt he needed protection from. Now, let's explore the world beyond the farm's fence line, the court of public opinion and the engine of reality television. The show Little People, Big World funded the farm's grandeur and the family's lifestyle. But it also created a toxic feedback loop. Every disagreement was magnified. Every negotiation had a camera in the room. Family members weren't just speaking to each other, they were performing for an audience of millions. This dynamic makes genuine, private conflict resolution almost impossible. How do you have a vulnerable, forgiving conversation when you know a producer is in the corner waiting for the good clip? The show created a financial incentive for drama to continue, for rifts to remain unresolved. It is the unspoken third party in every argument, the ghost at the table. The audience's passionate takes, the Team Matt versus Team Zach wars in the comment sections, pour gasoline on this fire. Family members are undoubtedly aware of these factions. It validates their positions, hardens their stances. When thousands of people are telling you you're right and your father is a monster, or that you're an entitled brat and your father is a saint, it becomes harder to see the other side's humanity. The reality TV machine monetizes the breakdown of the family, creating a perverse reward for the very pain that is tearing them apart. This means that, even if there were a private desire to heal, the public nature of the feud makes it 1,000 times more difficult. Every step toward reconciliation would have to be announced, filmed, and critiqued. The path back is littered with cameras and microphones. So where does this leave us now in the present tense of this ongoing saga? Let's look at the current status. Matt Roloff is still the king of his pumpkin kingdom, but the kingdom has changed. He is in a relationship with Karen Chandler, who was formerly the farm manager. This adds another complex layer. Karen is now intimately involved in the farm's daily life and, presumably, Matt's future planning. Her presence is a point of contention, with hints from the past suggesting she may have been a factor in the family's tensions. Whether that's true or not, her role solidifies the new era of the farm, an era that does not include Matt's children as partners. The farm's operations are scaled back, more manageable for a man in his 60s. The dream of a vast, multi-generational theme park seems to have dimmed, replaced by a more sustainable, nostalgic tourist spot. Zach and Tori in Washington are thriving in their new environment. They have built a beautiful, accessible home. They share their lives on social media, showing a contented family life filled with camping trips, home projects, and the small joys of raising their 3 children. There is a palpable sense of relief in their posts. The storm is behind them. They have their own land, their own space, their own rules. They have broken the cycle. Yet, the farm is never entirely forgotten. In interviews, Zach's pain is still close to the surface. He speaks of the finality of it all, of the closed door. He is building a new legacy, but he is doing so with the tools he gathered from the old one, and with the scar of its loss forever on his heart. The show continues, but it is a different show. It is now a show about separate lives. Episodes cut between Matt and Karen on the farm, perhaps building a new goat pen, and Zach and Tori in Washington, navigating the challenges of a new property. The through line is strained. The magic of the family unit working together on the farm is gone, replaced by a parallel editing structure that highlights their separation. The show itself is a monument to the split. Audiences watch now not to see a united family, but to monitor the distance between them, looking for clues of a thaw that may never come. And what of the grandchildren? This is perhaps the most poignant layer. Jackson, Lila, and Josiah Roloff, Zach's children, are growing up with Roloff Farms as a visiting destination, not a heritage. They will ride the zip line and pick pumpkins as guests, not as heirs. Their cousins on Jeremy's side have a similar experience. The dream of cousins running wild on the farm as their parents did, as part of their birthright, is over. The legacy has been interrupted. The family story has bifurcated. The grandchildren will inherit two separate narratives, one of a famous farm they visit and one of a new homestead their parents built with their own hands. Which is the more powerful legacy? That's a question only time will answer. The business of being the Roloffs continues too. Jeremy and Audrey have their booming lifestyle brand. Amy has her book deals and her life with Chris. Jacob has his writing and music. Zach and Tori have their social media influence. The family brand has fragmented into personal brands. They have learned that their name has value beyond the fence line of the farm. In a strange way, Matt's legal lockdown of the physical asset may have forced his children to become more independent, more savvy entrepreneurs than they might have been if they'd simply waited for an inheritance. Adversity bred self-reliance. But at what cost? The holidays must be a logistical and emotional nightmare. Who hosts? Who attends? Are the gatherings smaller, quieter, absent of the boisterous chaos that once defined them? The family text chain, if it even exists, must have cavernous silences. The shared history is now a minefield of topics to avoid. The joy of a new baby or a birthday is tinged with the unspoken question of how everyone will behave. This is the daily reality of a legal and emotional split. It's not just about one day in a lawyer's